Alright, here we go. OP14 is right around the corner, and with it we are getting brand new leaders, half of the EB04 set, and the brand new Yellow Luffy starter deck. So today, let's explore this new Yellow Luffy leader and see what it's all about. To break down how this video is going to go, first we'll look at a Yellow Luffy deck guide, we'll look at a couple of winning deck lists over from the east, and then we'll hop in the sim and see 2 games in action. Alright, all sections will be in the timestamps below. All deck lists and websites will be available in the description. And if you have any comments or any questions, just leave them in the comment section below. Alright, let's dive right in. But first, here is a word from our sponsor, which is nobody, because we are a brand new channel. But if you leave a like and subscribe, it would be greatly appreciated. All right, let's go. All right, so we are on spellmana.com. This is a really useful website for just exploring different deck guides. I found that if you want to try a new leader, these guides will give you a great starting point for the deck lists. So let's look at the new Yellow Monkey D. Luffy. So starting off, the Yellow Monkey D. Luffy from the starter 29 deck is a new egghead type leader with 6 life cards. Yes, 6 life cards. This leader strives on life card resources capable of stretching out games until the opponent runs out of steam or can't defend their leader anymore. So having a lot of life is definitely a theme for this deck. If we look at our Monkey D. Luffy leader, its effect is when attacking, if you have 2 or less life cards, draw 1 card and trash 1 card from your hand. In and of itself, that effect isn't necessarily too strong, but where the strength in this deck kind of lies is in the amount of life that we get, and since we are a yellow leader, we do have a lot of cards in our deck that can manipulate life. So let's take a look down here. Let's take a look at the deck list here. We'll give it a brief overview, and then as we continue through the guide, we'll dive deeper into how each card works and how to play this deck. Alright, so we have our leader. We are running 4 Usopp, 1 cost, 2000 power, 2000 counter. With a trigger, up to 1 of your egghead type leader character cards gains plus 2000 power until the end of your next turn. And then we're running 4 Lilith. This is a top 4 searcher from OP13. We can do a top 4 search for any 1 card with a trigger other than Lilith. So this deck list is running a lot of characters with triggers in it, so this Lilith is a strong searcher for this deck. We are running a 4 cost, 2000 power Nico Robin from the new starter deck. It's a 2000 counter and blocker with the trigger to be able to be played immediately. Strong blocker there. We have a 4 cost, 5000 power Sanji. This is another searcher, so we get to look at the top 4 cards from the deck, reveal a Straw Hat crew type, and add it to the hand. Then place the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order. This Sanji also has a trigger to be able to be played out right away. All right, and then we have Kikanojo, classic card in a lot of yellow decks. 4 cost, 6000 power with an on KO. If your opponent has 3 or less life cards, add up to 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life. And this Kikanojo does have a trigger to be played right away if your opponent has 3 or less life cards. Okay, we are looking now at the EB03 Nami. So this card's going to be coming out in February, but it is one of the strongest cards coming out for yellow decks with EB03. So its effect on play, give up to 1 Rested Dawn card to your leader. Then if your opponent has 3 or more life cards, add up to 1 card from the top of your opponent's life cards to the owner's hand. So we slam it down on our 5 Dawn turn, we give a Rested Dawn to our leader, our opponent takes a life, and then we get to swing in with 6k with our leader. Very strong. Plus, it has an on KO to turn 1 card from the top of your life card face up, and then place up to 1 character with 6000 power or less from your hand. So, a very strong card moving forward. We're running 4 of the Jinbei. This is from the new starter deck. 6 cost, 5000 power, 2k counter with a trigger to be able to be played out right away. So you'll see that as a theme with a lot of the cards in this deck. A lot of the triggers are just play this card right away. I'm getting the sense that the game plan of this deck is to build a lot of life and then go wide on the board utilizing triggers and then kind of aggro our opponent down with a lot of bodies. Okay, and then here we have S-Snake, another card coming out in EB03. 6 cost, 7,000 power, 1k counter with an on-play effect. If your leader has the egghead type and you have 2 or more life cards, add up to 1 character with a trigger from your hand to the top of your life cards face up. So we get to add a life and we get to add a trigger to our life. Very good. Here we have another staple card in a lot of yellow decks right now. It's Kuma, 6 cost, 7k power, 1k counter. With the on play, you may trash 1 card from your hand and add up to 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life cards. Then this character does gain +2 cost until the opponent's next end phase, which can be very strong against decks that deal with cost manipulation. This next card, so Nico Robin, another card coming out in EBO3 that's going to be pretty strong. 7 cost, 8,000 power, no counter, but it's on play effect. You may trash 1 card from the top of your life cards. If your leader has the Straw Hat Crew type, add up to 2 cards from the top of your deck to the top of your life cards. So ultimately, you come out with an additional life. You trash 1 life, and then you gain 2. So you end up with +1. And it's another character with an on KO. You may deal 1 damage to your opponent. So again, deterring our opponent from wanting to attack into our board. Okay, let's see. Next, we're running 2 of the Eustace Captain Kidd from OP10. 8 cost, 9,000 power, 0 counter, but on play, you may rest this character and then trash up to 1 card from the top of your opponent's life cards. End of your turn as well, we have an effect. If your opponent has 2 or less life cards, draw 1 card and trash 1 card from your hand. All right, and then we have our 9 cost Jewelry Bonnie from OP13. So this is sort of the boss monster of this Luffy deck. So Jewelry Bonnie, 9 cost, 10,000 power, no counter. On play, if your leader has the egghead type, this character gains rush during this turn. Then your opponent adds 1 card from the top of their life to their hand. So on play, our opponent takes a life, and this card has rush. We get to swing right in with 10k. Very strong, especially in the late game when we're trying to set up lethal. Cool, and then we have a couple events that we're running in this deck list. Now, we'll say, when we hop over to the decks on the east, I did notice some variation in some of the events that decks are running. So we'll take a look first here and then see what we want to play. But first, we have Blaze Slice. It's 1 cost, main and counter. Up to 1 of your leader or character cards gains +1,000 during this turn. Then, if your opponent has 2 or less life cards, rest up to 1 of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less. It also has a trigger to rest an opponent's character with a cost of 4 or less. So this can be a useful card if we need to rest a blocker late in the game, or if we need to rest down another attacker of our opponents. I do wish that if it was maybe like a 2 Dawn cost and could rest up to a character with the cost of 6. But this counter could be useful against decks like the new Jinbei and the new Trafalgar Law. And then this event, I think this event is a staple in this deck. If I had to choose between the events, this is definitely the one that I think is the strongest. Kizaru. Compared to 2 years ago, we are 100 times stronger now. Main, your Monkey D. Luffy leader gains unblockable during this turn. Counter, your leader gains +3,000 power during this battle. This is only a 1 cost event to make our leader unblockable. Very strong for the new Luffy. It does come with the new starter deck. All right, cool. So that's the deck list right there. Let's go ahead and see how to play. So starting off early in the game, we want to start off with Lilith, our early searcher. We're looking for cards like Sanji, Kikanojo, Nico Robin, or even our Jewelry Bonnie for late in the game. Pretty much just cycling what we're missing in hand. Now, moving into the middle game, we have a couple options for our 4 cost plays. One, we can do another top 5 search with our Sanji. We are running a lot of Straw Hat Crews, so with Sanji, we should be looking for another Sanji. Because this card can search itself. We can be looking for a Nico Robin, we can be looking for Usopp, and we're looking for our 5 cost Nami. Another option we have is Kikanojo, which is just a strong 6k body to get on the board. And it can be difficult for our opponent to get rid of this Kikanojo because of its on KO to give us an extra life. Okay, And then for our 5-cost turn, if we're on the odd curve, this Nami is probably our best 5-cost play. So again, if our opponent has 3 lives or more, when we play our Nami, it's going to give our leader Arrested Dawn, and then our opponent will take 1 life. Plus, it's another 6k body that we're developing. Okay, and for our 6th Dawn turn, our 6-cost options, we do have S-Snake and we have Kuma. Both of these cards will give us a life on play, so they're both great options, especially if we're on the even curve. With S-Snake, we are playing a card with a trigger face up on top of our life. So typically we want to set up any of our triggers that have a immediate on play, like Jinbei or Sanji or Nico Robin or Kikunojo. Kuma is also just a great option because of how hard it is to KO our Kuma. It's a 7k body, and for our opponent to KO it, they're going to have to give us another life as well. Moving on, we have our 7-cost Nico Robin. So again, if we're back on the odd curve, this Nico Robin is great to slam down on the board, and then we gain a life. And because of Nico Robin's on KO ability for our opponent to take damage by KOing it, it's again just another big body that's really hard for our opponent to try to get off the board. So to recap our middle game, basically we're looking to establish some bodies on the board. We can search with Sanji or get our Kikunojo out. We can play our Nami out to start damaging our opponent's life. Then we can start playing our S-Snake or our Kuma to start gaining our own life, and then slam down a Nico Robin for even more life as we transition into the late game. And so for the late game, basically we're looking to play our Eustace Captain Kidd or our Jewelry Bonnie. Both will cause our opponent to take a life. The Eustace Captain Kidd does have an end of turn ability to allow us to cycle a card from hand, which can be useful. And if we're on the even curve, our 8 Dawn turn, this Eustace Captain Kidd can be a great option. Moving on, Jewelry Bonnie, obviously our strongest play. She can be a game finisher if your opponent is at 1 life card. Her on-play effect gives her rush. Remember that. So she has a 10,000 power body we can swing with right away. Jewelry Bonnie also forces the opposing player to put the top card of their life in their hand. So 9-cost Jewelry Bonnie, our endgame finisher. Let's take a look at some of our 2k counter options we have in this deck. So we are running Usopp, Nico Robin, and Jinbei. All 3 of these cards are searchable by our Lilith and by our Sanji. They also all have triggers, Nico Robin and Jinbei being able to play themselves right away, and Usopp being able to power up an Egghead leader or character with 2,000 power. So the fact that they're all searchable is great. And then for our events, Blaze Slice can be used offensively or defensively. And then our Kizaru, again, can be offensive or defensive. But typically, I feel like the Kizaru is going to be used in the end game, going for a lethal swing with our leader. So yeah, that's the basic rundown of it. Searcher, establish some bodies, use our effects to take opponent's life and give ourselves more life, and then go for lethal with our Jewelry Bonnie. We have some counter cards to protect us, and we have some event cards to utilize when needed. This deck guide also does have a Thriller Bark package for this yellow Luffy, but I'm going to be skipping this for this breakdown. But if you want to check this out, the Spell Mono website is in the description below. The one thing I will point out, this 5-cost Nami card, Egghead, Straw Hat Crew, I think this can be a really good option to substitute into the deck, but we'll talk about that more when we explore the East deck lists. Okay, and then real quick, just want to talk about the mulligan tips, basically our opening and if we're going first or second. When we're going first, essentially the curve we're looking for is to play Lilith, play our 5-cost Nami, and then our 7-cost Nico Robin. And then if we're going second, we want to go Lilith, Kikunojo, or the 4-cost Sanji into the S-Snake or the Kuma. Now, I will say, I do think this deck list is pretty flexible, whether we are on the odd curve or the even curve. If it's up to me, I probably prefer to go second, just because we are running more even curve cards, and we don't really have any 3 Dawn plays in this deck. But yeah, that's basically the game plan right there. Build up a lot of life, go wide on the board with our triggers, and then utilize our on-KO effects. Now let's go take a look at some of the deck lists over from the East. Okay, so we're over on gumgum.gg, and at the top right here is a winning yellow Luffy list. Looks like from a local event that had 32 to 64 players. which is a pretty good sized local tournament. Let's see what's in this list. So right away, the deck list looks pretty similar. We're running 4 of the Usopp, 4 of the Lilith Searcher. Okay, so this is a new card right here. The 3-cost 5,000 power Lilith. This is another Searcher to look at the top 5 cards of your deck. It does have a trigger that's only for Vegapunk. So the trigger we can't use in our Luffy deck, but since it does have a trigger, we can search it with our Lilith. So just a 3-cost 5k body. Okay. We're running 4 of the Nico Robin, 4 of the Sanji, 4 of the new EB03 Nami, 4 Jinbei, 4 S Snake, 3 Kuma, 4 Nico Robin, 4 Captain Kid, 4 Bonnie, and 3 of the event. So yeah, pretty similar build to the base that we were just looking at. They are running this Lilith, and they are running 1 more of this event, and they are not running any of the Blaze Slice events. But yeah, we got 1 winning deck list here. Let's take a look at 1 more. Let's see, right here. So here we have another top placing OP14 yellow Luffy deck. I believe this was another local tournament, but let's take a look here. So they're running 4 of the Usopp, 4 of the Nico Robin, 4 Sanji, 4 of the Kikunojo, and then here we see something unique. This is the 5-cost Nami. I think this card is a great addition to have to this deck because of its on play. You may trash 1 card with a trigger from your hand, and then KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. One of the main weaknesses I'm seeing with this Luffy deck is that we don't really have a way to control our opponent's board. So I think this Nami can just help us when we're playing against some of the more aggro decks. In the upcoming OP14 format, there's some decks like Jinbei and Trafalgar Law, which like to get a lot of smaller and medium bodies on the board. So this Nami will just help us out. And just control their board a little bit. Let's see what else. So they have 4 of the other 5-cost EB03 Nami. They are running 4 Jinbei, 4 S Snake, 3 Kuma, 4 Nico Robin, the 7-cost, 4 Jewelry Bonnie. And then here we see a couple new events, a couple new event options. So we have You're the One Who Should Disappear. This is a 0-cost trash a card from hand for 3,000 counter event with a trigger. If you have 0 life cards, you may add up to 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life cards, then trash a card from hand. So that can be a pretty useful trigger given the right circumstances. And then we also have this L Thor. 1-cost counter event. Up to one of your leader or characters gains plus 2,000 power during this battle. Then if your opponent has 2 or less life cards, that card gains an additional plus 2,000 power during this battle. So kind of like that one green counter event, Trifold Biliocosm, whatever that one with the really long word in the event name is. This El Thor also has a trigger to KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost equal or less than the number of your opponent's life cards. So I guess that could be useful, like if you pull this trigger earlier in the game, if you get rid of a 4-cost body or a low-cost blocker or something like that. Cool. So pretty similar list overall. I do think that You're the One Who Should Disappear. This event is a strong card to include, and I do think this Nami is a great card to include as well. Okay, so let's hop over to the sim and we'll see a couple games in action. All right, we are back in the sim and here is the deck list I'll be using for the gameplay today. I did want to point out just a couple things. One, I am using this 5-cost Nami. You may trash 1 card with a trigger from your hand, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. We are also running this counter event right here, You're the One Who Should Disappear. 0-cost, trash a card from hand to protect a leader or character with 3,000 counter. Oh yeah, one last thing. We are not running the Eustace Captain Kid in this build. Instead, I'm opting to rely on more Jewelry Bonnie and Nico Robin for my late game, and I wanted to include more trigger bodies throughout the whole deck, going for a more trigger-happy build with this Luffy leader. Let's try it out. Let's hop into some games. Okay, we have our first matchup here against blue-yellow Boa Hancock, one of the new OP14 leaders. Very strong. The speed is at 1.5x, and we may pause at times to break some things down, but here we go. Okay, and we are going first in this matchup, so we're deciding to keep our mulligan here. We don't have any opening turn moves because we don't have any searchers, but we do keep this hand because we have some strong 5-cost, 6-cost moves with our Nami and S-Snake. We decide to pass our opening turn. Okay, our opponent gets a Hyobi on the board, and they cycle the top card of their life. They pass the turn back. 3 Dawn turn. We don't have any 3 Dawn plays, so we just attach all Dawn and swing for 8k at 5. They do get a trigger, so they play a Ran on the board. We pass the turn. Our opponent starts with a Boa Hancock, 4-cost, 6k blocker. They swing for 5k at us. We take that life. We do get a trigger. They swing with 7k with their leader, so pause. Okay, so we got a trigger on their first attack, and we got to play our Kikanojo onto the field. They swung with 7k with their leader. We took that life, and we now have a Kuma, and we draw a Jewelry Bonnie in hand. Okay, let's keep it going. Okay, we start off with our 5-cost Nami, make them take a life. We attach it down to our leader. We swing for 6k at 5k. They block out with their Boa, and then they counter out. Okay, so they protect their Boa. Good play by our opponent there. We pass the turn. It is our opponent's 6 Dawn turn now. They slam a Kuma on the board, gain a life. They attach 1 Dawn to their leader, and then they swing 5k at us with their Ran first. So 5k coming at 5. We know that a couple attacks are incoming this turn, so we're deciding, should we counter it? We do counter out with a 1k with our S-Snake. They swing with 6k with their leader, and we take that life. We draw another Jewelry Bonnie, and we can't use its trigger effect, so our opponent passes the turn. We draw a 5-cost board control Nami. There's got to be some better official name for the 5-cost Nami to differentiate the two 5 costs we have. But we are deciding where we want to go with this turn. We could play a Kuma on the board. We could play an S-Snake on the board. We could go for some board control, although we would have to take a life if we KO any of their characters. So tricky spot to be in. We're going to start with just a 5k poke, 5k swing with our leader into their leader. And our opponent takes that life. They do get a trigger, so they get a Lilith. They get to do a top 4 search. Okay. And we are deciding, do we want to swing for 7? We do. So we attach a Dawn to our Nami. We swing for 7. They block with their Boa. Pause. They blocked with their Boa. Their Boa gets KO'd. And due to Boa Hancock's leader ability, we now take a life. We get a Kuma in hand from our life. We then swing with our Kikanojo, 6k at their leader, 5k. And our opponent counters out with a 2k Hyobi. We go ahead and play our S-Snake. Very good. And then that allows us to play a Nico Robin blocker face up on top of our life. So we get an extra life. The Nico Robin does have a trigger to be able to on play right away. And we pass the turn to our opponent. Okay, so they start with the Silver's Rayleigh. They get to KO our S-Snake on play with their Rayleigh. They attach 1 Dawn to their leader, and then they swing 7k with their Kuma at our leader. 7 coming at 5, and we got to decide, do we take this life or do we counter out of this first one? We take the life. Ultimately, we get to use the trigger. They swing 5k with their Ran. We counter out with 1k Kuma. Then they swing 6k with their leader, and we have to decide, do we take this life, do we block, or do we counter? And we take the life. So we do get an Usopp in hand. We have 8 cards in hand. We did get the Nico Robin on the board, so we do have a blocker on the board to protect ourselves. Now we got to decide what to do with our 9 Dawn turn. We do have 2 Jewelry Bonnies in hand. We start with the 5k swing. Now because of leader ability, we get to draw 2, trash 1, since we're down to less than 2 life. We decide to trash one of our Jewelry Bonnies because we already have 2 more of them. Our opponent ends up taking the life as well. So the 5k swing, our opponent takes that life. So pause real quick. I just want to rewind that. Yeah, so our opponent takes the life. They get a trigger, and so they get, what's that? Shaku. They get a Shaku on the board. Shaku Yaku. All right, we're deciding what to do next. We attach 1 Dawn. We swing 7k. So we still have 8 standing Dawn. So we're not going for the Jewelry Bonnie play this turn. We may go for a Kuma play. We may go for another blocker on the field. We're thinking we may want to keep a Dawn up for our counter event. Okay, our opponent counters out of that with a 4K counter event. And so, yeah, we do go for the Kuma play here. We get Kuma on the board. We trash another one of our Jewelry Bonnies. We still have one in hand. We get a life. We're up to 2 life. Now, our opponent has a lot of bodies. A lot of bodies. Every single one of their characters can swing in at us. We only have 1 blocker and 2 life. They start with the Kuma. And they attach a Dawn to their leader. So Kuma on the board, they gain a life. They swing with their other Kuma, 8K coming in at 5. Coming in at 5. Interesting, they swing with their strongest attacker first. We decide to block out. They swing with 7K into our leader. We take that life. We do get a trigger with our S-Snake, so we utilize it to make one of their 6,000 power, or 6 cost, is it? Pause. Yeah, so the S-Snake makes it so we can freeze one of their 6 cost or lower characters. We freeze their Ran to make sure there's 1 less body swinging at us this turn. 5K coming in from their Shaku. We take that life. We have an opportunity to use a trigger, but we decide not to. Ultimately, they have 1 more swing with their leader, and at most they could swing 8K. And we do have the counter to get out of this attack. We counter out with a 2K, but we are down to 0 life. Our opponent's still with 2 life and a full board. So this is the turn. We're going to have to try to make something happen. We start with the 7K swing with our Kuma, 7 at face. Our opponent takes that first life. I think our plan here is to try to get the Jewelry Bonnie in, and our opponent does get a Silver's Rayleigh. Pause. Hold on. Okay. We're getting ready to play Jewelry Bonnie, but our opponent gets Silver's Rayleigh in their trigger, so they get to activate Silver's Rayleigh effect and KO one of our 7,000 power or less characters. They KO the Nami. So I'm just gonna rewind it 10 seconds. Silver's Rayleigh KOs our Nami, and we go ahead and get the Jewelry Bonnie on the board. Our opponent picks up their last life, and we swing in for 11K. At their leader, they still have 2 standing Dawn. We're looking out. Okay, our opponent counters out. They have 1 card left in hand. Pause. We could swing with our leader, or we could swing with our character. I'm swinging with Kikanojo first because Boa Hancock likes to run You'll Frighten Me. It's an event that if we swing with our leader, they could freeze a character. But if we swing with the character, they cannot freeze our leader. So we are swinging with our 6K Kikanojo first and saving our leader for our last swing. And our opponents, will they have the counter to protect themselves or some sort of event? They do not. All they have in hand is a Perfume Femur and Yellow Luffy, able to get the lethal swing with Kikanojo. And there it is, Yellow Luffy able to get the dub with our backs against the wall. We had just enough life to survive and just enough power to swing for lethal. Let's go hop into the next game. Okay, our next game is against Green Mihawk, another very strong leader coming out with OP14. Let's go. Okay, and for this game, we are deciding to go second, and we are keeping our opening hand. So, our Mihawk player will start off with the Kikanojo on the board. They pass their opening turn. Good opening move for our Mihawk. We have 2 Liliths in hand, so we'll start with a search. We'll grab the 4-cost Sanji to have a card to play on our next turn. And then we'll grab the S-Snake. So we get a 4-cost card and a 6-cost card to play out on curve. We pass the turn. Our opponent gets a Kid and Killer on the board. They'll be able to swing into us this turn as well. Yeah, so they attach 1 Dawn and they swing in 6K at 5. We'll take that first life. Okay, and we decide to use the trigger. So with Sanji, we can trash a card from hand, and then the Sanji plays itself onto the field, and then with its on play, we get to do a top 4 search. We grab a 5-cost Nami for board control. Our opponent passes the turn, and we start off with a 5K poke straight at their leader, and our opponent takes that life. We swing with another 5K with our Sanji, and our opponent takes that life as well. And then we slam down a 4-cost Kikanojo on the board, 6k body, we pass the turn. Our opponent gets a Tashigi on the board. They rest their Kikanojo with their leader ability to restand 3 Dawn. They attach all 3 and they swing 8k at our Sanji. So it will require 1 2k and 3 1ks. We decide that's too much to pay. We let our Sanji go. Our opponent passes the turn. It is our 6 Dawn turn now. So we're deciding what we want to do. We have our S-Snake. Yeah, I think the S-Snake may be a good play here. We'll start with a 5k swing with our leader straight at their leader. Our opponent is at 3 life right now. They counter out with a 1k, understandably. We swing with a 6k with our Kikanojo, and our opponent takes that life. So our opponent down to 2 lives, taking some hits early on. We'll see how it pays out for them. We do get a 6-cost S-Snake on the board, and we throw, we throw our board control 5-cost Nami on the board. Now we're looking at this Tashigi on the other side of the board. I just want to break this down. We're looking at the Tashigi on the other side of the board right now. That does have board protection, but only on the opponent's turn. So if our opponent swings into our life, what we're trying to do here is utilize Nami's trigger effect to activate its main effect. And since it would be on our opponent's turn swinging into our life to activate our trigger, we could use the Nami to KO their 5-cost Tashigi. Okay, so just a little bit of proactive planning there with how we're setting up our triggers. Let's keep going. Okay, so our opponent plays another Kikanojo on the board. They rest both Kikanojos with Tashigi to increase Tashigi by 2,000. They swing 8,000 at our Kikanojo. So this is interesting. If we let our Kikanojo go, we will get a life. We do ultimately let the Kikanojo go because we don't want to counter out too many cards out of hand. Now that does block the Nami from being the next trigger that we pull from our life. So that's a bit of a trade-off. Now, we are up to 7 life right now, which is ridiculous. Our opponent swings at us, we take it, so we're down to 6 life. That feels so weird to say. We're down to 6 life. Our opponent passes the turn. So we got a Nico Robin from our life. We got an Usopp from our draw. We're starting our turn with a 5k swing at their leader. So 5 at 5. Trying to get some cards out of the hand of our opponent. They counter out with an event, the Trifold. We play a Lilith. We go for a search here. Okay. Yeah, so pause. The reason we went for a search there is because we had this 7-cost Nico Robin in hand that we were thinking about playing. But if we would have played it, we have to trash the top card of our life first, and then we get 2 life. So we would get an extra life, but we would lose out on our potential Nami trigger to KO their Tashigi. So instead of going for the Nico Robin, we're seeing what other plays we can come up with this turn and keep our Nami as a trigger option at the top of our life. Let's go. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so we attach 1 Dawn, and we swing 8k with our S-Snake. So it looks like we're going for another 6-cost S-Snake play. Because we do have another Nami in hand. So our opponent counters out of that attack. We do play the S-Snake, and we get a second Nami at the top of our life. We are now up to 7 life with 2 open-faced Namis at the top of our life. This yellow Luffy is something else, I'll tell you. Okay, our green Mihawk player, the ball is back in their court. They start with the Dracul Mihawk, one of the strongest cards in Mihawk's deck. They're able to freeze one of our characters. Yep, so they freeze our active S-Snake. Then they go ahead and swing in at our other S-Snake with their Tashigi, and we don't have enough counter in hand, or at least not enough that we're willing to get rid of right now, to protect our S-Snakes, so we do let it go. Our opponent passes the turn without swinging into our life. They see our Nami at our life, and they choose not to swing. But with 7 life, our opponent's going to have to swing at us eventually. We just have so much life. Okay, so we're deciding here, do we go for Jewelry Bonnie this turn? We start with a 6k swing straight at their Mihawk, and they do take that life, so we're going for it. Jewelry Bonnie hits the field. Our opponent takes their last life. We could have swung with the Jewelry Bonnie. Pause. Okay, pause. If we rewind it a sec, we play the Jewelry Bonnie. Our opponent takes their last life, and we decide to pass the turn. Now, the reason we pass the turn here instead of swinging, because Jewelry Bonnie has rush, right, is because we have so much life. We are protected for the next couple turns. We're good. The only thing they can really attack into that's consequential for us is our characters and just removing as many characters as they can. So if I swung with the Jewelry Bonnie, it would be vulnerable for them to attack into next turn. I'm choosing to keep my characters active to go for a big swing next turn, especially because I have this event in hand that can make my leader unblockable. Okay, let's keep going. So it is the Mihawk's turn. They start with a 10k swing with their Mihawk, and we go ahead and take that life. We get to use the Nami trigger. We trash a trigger card from hand, and then we get to KO a 5 cost. We do KO their Tashigi with our Nami trigger. Okay. Our opponent has a blocker, Zoro, on the board, and all of their Dons standing. We'll see what they choose to do next. Yep, so they get their Shanks on the board, another very strong card in the Mihawk deck. They rest the Shanks to be able to rest one of our characters. They rest the S-Snake. They do get to restand 3 Don. With their leader ability, they attach 4, and they swing 9,000 at 7,000. And now we're thinking, yes, let's counter out. Let's protect our S-Snake. We're going for as big of a swing as we can next turn. Our opponent passes the turn with 2 Don standing. We have 10 Don. All of our characters are minus 1,000, though. And mind you, 3 of our characters are Liliths that are now 1,000 power. We can't really do much with them. We're counting out our Don here, though, to see how big of an attack. If we were to go with Luffy this turn, swing all out, unblockable, how strong of an attack would that be? We could play the Nico Robin, try to just get another life and another big body on the board. So here we decide, ultimately, to attach 1 Don to our S-Snake, and we swing 7k at 5k. We're going to see if they use their blocker. If they counter out with cards in hand, then going for our unblockable leader swing may be the play. Yeah, so we do bait them out. We do get them to counter out with cards in hand, thinking they still have a blocker up they can protect themselves with, and we use our event to make our leader unblockable. 13,000 swinging in. Our opponent does have 2 counter events, 2 Dead Man's games. They do not have the counter to get out of that attack. Yellow Luffy dominating against the green Mihawk. Absolutely, we have 6 life at the end of this. That is insane. So GG's to our opponents today. A lot of fun matchups. Definitely excited to keep trying out this yellow Luffy deck and workshopping different builds with it. But that's really it. This yellow Luffy, it's a trigger happy deck. It likes to build a lot of life and it likes to go wide on the board. All right, that's gonna do it. If you stuck around this long, thank you so much. Please drop a like, subscribe if you're into One Piece content, deck breakdowns, gameplay, all of that. We are just getting this channel started, but we're having a lot of fun. Let me know what leaders you're excited for in OP14, EBO3, and this year moving forward. We'll be back with another one. Peace.